Extra Life. I'm Jack Gardner, and with me is Joe Noop, Marcus Stewart, Aiden Strawhun, and Naomi Lugo. And we are here with your daily E3 wrap-up. This is technically day 2, but also day 5 of E3, including all kind of the pre-show stuff. So this is, we're going to be wrapping up just kind of what we saw today. And, if you have any questions, we're going to be monitoring the chat. So we can answer anything or respond to your comments. As always, we're just going to kind of give a little shout out to Bits for Kids, which is a new initiative we're doing with our Twitch partners and affiliates. Basically, you can donate a portion of your bits and cheers, and some of that goes to your children's hospital that you are supporting through Extra Life. So it's kind of a win-win. You get to kind of get more engagement on your stream, and you also get to help kids at the same time. So, yeah, check that out. I think you can find out more over on www.extra-life.org/bitsforkids. With that said, this is going to be our little wrap-up, and kind of we're going to be talking about what we saw today on the show floor, which was rather packed and busy, and just a little. But we all had appointments, and we all saw some cool stuff today, I hope. So we're going to talk about that. So how about you lead us off, Joe?
Yes, I had plenty of demos today. I suppose the most exciting one came from THQ Nordic. Some of them played a game called Battle Chasers that I thought was really fun. Kind of I don't want to say riff, but all those classic RPG elements of tank, healer, assault were kind of flipped on their head. One of the characters you can control is a little girl, 3 feet tall, with boxing gloves. She is the tank. And then the big dude who looks like Reinhardt is actually your druid healer. And they changed up. They made these kind of dungeon crawlers sound really interesting because it's randomly generated dungeons, but you have to. I don't know how I'm describing this. I'm doing terrible already. But I don't know. Give me a second to think about this. Marcus, how about you?
Well, first game that comes to mind actually wasn't one of my appointment games, but it was Knack 2. I played that. And that gets a special mention just because it was the only game I could get into the show for. But it was more Knack, definitely, for better or worse. If you're a Knack fan, then you should be.
I would hope that Knack 2 would be more Knack.
More Knack. That's the subtitle for the game.
Knack
2,
harder.
More Knack.
More Knack.
12. No, but it may as well be. You do get a co-op buddy. It's cooperative this time. It's a blue Knack. And then you guys can Knack together. And Knack all day.
Knack.
The other one's name is Nick.
Oh, okay. That's objectively adorable. That is objectively adorable.
That's almost as good as the Higgly Digglies.
Thank you, Jack. Glad we got that on camera. But yeah, it's a lot of platforming, co-op buddy stuff. Nothing really out of the ordinary in terms of the cooperation stuff, but it looked really pretty. And, it played pretty well. So, at least opposite nights. More Knack. More Knack. How about you?
Thank you, Marcus. So there's actually 2 that I have in mind today, and both of them were demo appointments. One with Naomi. Took us forever to find. We both got lost.
Yes.
Because it was tucked away in the weirdest corner of the convention center. Go as far as you can, and you still won't be far enough. Kind of corner.
Yeah.
Corner of Oblivion. That's a better way to put it.
Yeah, and it was in one of the main halls, so you wouldn't think that there'd be this press area in this main hall. Yeah.
And that's actually where I was most of the day today, and that was a totally different experience from the South Hall. Let me tell you, it was even more overwhelming. Because they had both Nintendo and Sony in those. And so that game, the first one we did with Paradox, was actually an unannounced game that we can't really talk about now that I realize that.
Oh, yeah.
That was embargoed.
There are a few embargoes.
It will be cool when you guys know about it.
It'll be amazing.
Good catch.
Good save.
I was just zooming out there.
Wow,
Whew!
Thank goodness!
Just cut the strings.
We could talk about Pillars of Earth.
Yes, Pillars of Earth. I actually was really impressed by that. I did that one with Joe. And
also has embargoes.
No, it does.
Yes, it does.
It does?
Yes.
Okay, well.
More strict
I didn't
embargoes.
sign shit.
Yeah, they
Well,
didn't
they don't make you sign stuff for all embargoes.
They didn't tell us about the embargoes on that one.
We're professionals here.
No, I don't remember saying anything about embargoes.
I'll
but we won't talk about it.
So yeah, there's pretty strict embargoes there.
You got embargoes? This lady was just not good at her job.
Nope, she did not tell us about that. So, we won't talk about that. We just know that I like both of these secret games.
These are all the super secret games, apparently.
When they finally come to launch, they will be awesome, and you will love them very much, I hope. If you have the same taste as I do. All right, Naomi, on to you.
Thanks for saving us from a loss.
Thank you for saving us.
Yeah, of course. That's what I'm here for. So my main goal was to see anything in Square Enix today, which was pretty hard actually. So I just stuck to the mobile games thinking that the lines would be not as bad. They still were. It was about 40-minute wait for each of them. Played a little bit of King's Knight. That was pretty cool. The demo was pretty fun. And then I played another one. It was Fire vs. Blaze or something like that. And that's a MOBA that's only available in Japan right now. But it looks pretty awesome. And then I also went into Bethesda's little zone and did the Evil Within 2 experience, which was not playable since it's pretty new. They had a little interactive area that you just kind of walk through, which was a cool concept, but it was very short, and it was kind of just pictures on the wall and then weird lighting. Not for a 30-minute wait. It wasn't worth it for that. And then saw a little bit of Escapist 2 today, and a personal favorite of mine, Frostpunk from 11-Bit Studios. They're the guys who did this War of Mine, so that was pretty cool to see what they were working on with that, because we've only previously gotten just kind of intro trailers to that, announcement trailers, so we got to actually see gameplay of that, so that was pretty cool.
So I can talk about the last night, which was debuted at the Microsoft press conference, if I remember correctly, and also showed off at PC Gamer briefly. For those who didn't see the trailer, just this incredibly beautiful blend of 2D and 3D graphics, thinking of an old school, 8-bit kind of side-scrolling adventure game, but the art style is actually a blend of 2D and 3D and volumetric lighting that makes it look more alive than I think I've ever seen just straight up pixels look. And for those who didn't know, of course, briefly after the trailer debut, there was a bit of controversy. Someone found some old tweets of the developers, speaking what his thoughts were some years back about politically charged topics, we'll say.
Yeah.
And they were actually, it was surprising because everyone on the team, including the lead developer, were very open about addressing those concerns. And while I'm still very much on the fence about do I lend my support to this game? Do I trash this game publicly? Because someone disagrees with me heavily. I'm going to keep an eye on it. Okay. Because I think that the game itself is almost a masterclass of design. I think they will legitimately teach this game in classes to kids. But obviously, you can poison the well like that with views. It remains to be seen exactly how sincere apologies that were made were. And we'll just have to wait and see, exactly how that final product comes out. And if they, renege on their apologies.
Yeah, and I mean, it looks if you haven't looked in a trailer, it does look very nice. It looks very good. And Eric Roman, I'm not a big Monster Hunter guy, but that trailer, you know what? I'd be willing to give it a shot now with Monster Hunter Worlds. It looked pretty cool. God of War also. I'm a sucker for Norse mythology, so. And I like the direction they're taking this kind of hack and slash thing, a little bit more cinematic, a little bit less arcade. The Mario stuff, I mean,
New Donk?
New Donk City. I think Aiden has a little something to say about Mario.
Okay, So, I just gotta say, Nintendo's booth is absolutely absurd.
Oh, you got to see it.
I've got to
It's
see
your
it
first time.
today. I've got to see it today, and it was the coolest thing. It was amazing. Joe and I actually did an Instagram live through there for a little bit.
We danced in front
Yes,
of
we danced.
in front of a tank shaped like Mario.
Yes, we danced in front of a tank that was shaped like Mario. It had the hat and everything with the googly eyes. It was fantastic. And we danced to that weird song, and then it got stuck in my head.
That weird song.
It's still stuck in my head, actually.
It's weird
The
sequel
weird
to
song in the
Poltergeist.
trailer. It's very catchy.
Oh, I know that song.
Yes, we all know that song. Anyway, it was really, really interesting because they actually recreated New Donk City within it. And like the carpet was the street, and they had all of these weird and interesting figures going around. The voice actor of Mario was actually there.
Whose
No,
name I fail to remember.
Charles
Yeah.
Charles Mond.
He's always such a sweetheart.
He's so cute.
What a man who enjoys his job. You know?
Right?
Very much
He's
so.
also, fun fact, the voice of Parthenax in Skyrim.
Oh, really?
Yes, he's my hero.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Giant dragon
What
and
a-
Mario.
What a week.
Range.
But anyway, I was just blown away by their presentation. And they also had the big tournaments going on today and yesterday as well, which is really cool because I know one of their people who was doing the commentating, Vicky Kitty. She actually lives in Florida too. She
Oh,
goes
cool.
to school in Miami, I believe. Anyway, it was just, Nintendo has a certain magic about it, you know?
They're like Disney.
Yeah, they are like
Yeah.
Disney. They're the Disney of video games,
Yeah.
except Disney has their own video games. Not anymore.
But now
Not anymore, really.
Nintendo's going to be in Disney.
No, they're going to be in
Oh,
Universal.
Universal, that's right.
Yeah, they're going to be in
Ah.
Universal.
That's right.
Level the playing field.
I hope so. 2020. Anyway, like I said, they just have this certain magic about them, and you know that faded for a good while. I feel that now that they're really, really coming back into momentum, and I'm really happy to see where they're going. So, who's next?
Um,
Do we have a question?
no, Eric Roman just says, I'm jelly. Nintendo is a classic for sure. So,
For sure.
yeah, Eric knows what's up. Yeah, and I didn't get to see a whole lot today. I got to play this VR first-person shooter that was kind of weird. It's called Seeking Dawn. I'm not entirely sold on it. It controlled okay. It was on the HTC Vive. It was an adequate experience. I also had to wait an hour to see it, and yeah, I had an appointment. It went really long over my appointment.
Really?
I think my most enjoyable appointment, though, was with the creators of The Guild 3. I don't know. Do any of you know anything about The
that.
Guild?
I saw that last year.
Okay.
I had an appointment to see it.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So Marcus saw it last year. And yeah, I'm a huge sucker for historical accuracy, and this game tries to recreate like entire cities from the 1400s and does it pretty well. And the system seemed really fun too. Basically, the premise of the game is that you can be anything in this medieval society, but it's not a game about warfare or fighting. It's a game about like being an artisan or a craftsman or a commoner and trying to build your life up. And do you have some?
That sounds like right up my alley.
and I guess like you can also be like a criminal, and your character theoretically you can start out as like a pickpocket and work your way up to become like mayor of a town and maybe even a noble.
McCheese.
Yeah, Mayor McCheese. And yeah, it was pretty cool. They do have a story mode, but I guess most of their player base likes to play in sandbox and just kind of do their own thing. They told me an amusing story. Basically, they had for their title screen an image, not an image, but like they would actually have the game running in the background for the title screen. And one of the things about their game is that there was a bug, and if you let the title screen sit for long enough, lightning would start striking the same place over and over and over again, and eventually burned down the town that was in the background.
That is a great bug.
And I guess they fixed that, but I think they should have left that in. That would have been great.
Our God is angry. Why?
So that was one of the fun things that I saw today.
Yeah. I actually have one more game I wanted to mention. I had to reach for my phone because it has a weird title, and I couldn't remember what it was. But it's called a Roto Color Rhythm.
Oh, yeah!
Yeah, I played that today at the Indie Mega booth, and it's made by two gentlemen who, it's a rhythm music game where, it's simple notes coming down a track. But what's cool about it is that instead of focusing on the challenge and failing aspect of it, of trying to hit notes precisely and building a score, and then if you blow it, it's usually like a jarring kind of fail. Mm-hmm. They just want players to chill out and enjoy the experience. So all the music, pretty much all the music, with a few exceptions, is indie electronic music from a real artist. They sought out some of the most obscure artists of that scene, and they are also using the game to kind of give them a platform to have their work exposed to a wider audience. And it's a very trippy game. You've seen it, Jack.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, it's just the visuals, these kind of neon laser light visuals. You start out as the marker, you're this woman that's running, and then eventually she turns into a squid and then a unicorn. And the music video of the song that's playing starts playing in the background, and
that sounds like a trip.
It is a huge trip backed up by that soundtrack, and it's so easy to get into just a trance. What am I doing? But what's cool about it is that you can play with a traditional control scheme or keyboard, but you can also plug in legit drum machines and play like a DJ. So they were telling us how they had set up the game at the Devolver Party and at other clubs, and would just leave it there, and then have one person go up and start playing it, and then people would just yeah. People that don't even play games, and it makes you feel like real DJ because you're banging those drum buttons and it reacts to it. And you can also have it set up to plug into production lights and have control lighting with the game.
That's cool.
So you have your own DJ production with this game. It's really, really cool, and I was really impressed with it. And I like rhythm music games, but not my biggest genre. But I was pretty enamored of that game by the end of it.
We have a question. We have a question from Zachary Nathanson. Are you looking forward to Cuphead? I think Marcus can speak to that because he has the most experience with Cuphead.
Yes. I played it last year at Microsoft's booth at E3, and I've been looking forward to that game since it was announced. I love that art style. I love animation a lot. I went to an art college, so. But
nerd.
Yeah, right. What are you gonna do with that degree?
It's okay.
It's a really cool aesthetic, but I love how it plays because it's if you never played it, it pretty much plays like a new Contra. Literally, it's a new Contra. You get two characters. You're running around, you're gunning everything. You're shooting diagonally, you're shooting below. Enemies are coming at all sides. They respawn instantly as soon as you change frames, and it's really hard too. Contra was, where you kind of have to have that other buddy. And I remember being taken aback because I didn't expect it to be. I thought it would just be kind of a traditional shooter platformer. But
adorable one. Yeah.
I love Contra too, and it was scratching all that itches. I remember me and the guy we were playing together. We were just banging our head against a bunch of stuff because we kept dying, but we were just no, let's go, kid, let's do it. But it plays really well. It's there this year at Microsoft booth.
Are they showing off their campaign style game? Because it used to be just bosses.
Yeah, it was last year. They had already changed it, so there was the overworld stuff. So it was it's pretty much like a traditional it reminded me of Super Mario World to me. So you got your standard shooter levels and then just your boss levels.
Yeah.
Which I think is the right move because the platforming levels are pretty fun. But yeah, I'm pretty pumped for that game when they announced, I think, September 29th or something like that.
Something like that, yeah.
That was all I needed from that game. I've seen enough of it and played as just give me a date. And we got that, so I'm pretty jazzed about that.
Cool.
Yeah.
Nathan says, even though I admire the big games, I have to support the little guy. I hear you, Nathan.
Look out for the little guy.
Yeah, look out for the little guy.
Or gal.
I mean, honestly, part of my favorite part of E3 is actually getting to see a lot of the bigger little games, the games that aren't AAA but are big enough to kind of make it to the show floor. For example, today one of my best interviews was with the people who made 2064 Read Only Memories, which is a point-and-click adventure game I believe it's already out on PC, so you can actually check it out right now. But it's going to be coming to Xbox One and PS4 and the Vita, PS Vita, getting a little bit of love. And they have plans to bring it to the Switch as well, with expanded content, actually. And it's pretty cool. It's, as far as what it was pitched to me as, because I haven't played it, it's like a kind of cyberpunk. It's a cyberpunk game that deals with kind of the same issues that Deus Ex wrestles with, like transhumanism and
but with cartoon characters.
Right? But with kind of lovable. Well, it's not really cartoon characters. It's heavily inspired by the Hideo Kojima game Snatcher, which is kind of a more obscure adventure game that he made before going on to Metal Gear. And Snatcher is basically a cyberpunk mystery game, and it's pretty sweet. But yeah, the read-only memories takes place in real time. So once you start the game, everything takes place in real time. And you're basically... Here's how it was described to me, because I know the general overall story, but here's kind of the exciting premise, is that your main character is a journalist, kind of a struggling, low-level journalist, and one night a robot breaks into his apartment and asks for his help because basically the robot became sentient and his creator was abducted and he needs help finding the creator again. And so your journalist is optimal because you're not so famous that you'll immediately sell him out, and but you're well regarded enough that you aren't gonna be a jerk, I guess. And it goes off into this whole adventure that has like different outcomes. I guess there are several different endings depending on how well you do throughout the game. And there are little things too that make it more adventure gamey. Like you can screw up in multiple instances, or like fail all the time and not see a game over screen. And one of the things that was interesting, if you just let the game sit, I guess, eventually it will end and you'll get the ending that you get for just letting it sit.
Makes me really want to talk about the game we saw that apparently we cannot talk about.
Well, okay, here's my argument to that. You played Pillars of Eternity, right? That was with Paradox, right?
Mm-hmm.
We played Pillars
of Earth with Daedalic.
Okay.
So I don't think there was an embargo.
You should check first.
Yeah.
Yes.
We'll double check and we'll talk about it tomorrow. So
yes.
Yeah. That's a good compromise. Gotta be careful about those embargoes, guys.
But actually, there is something interesting about indies that I just kind of want to gush about in a minute.
Okay. Yeah. And so 2064 read-only memories touches on a whole lot of things, made by some cool people, and they're working on the sequel and 2 other games. So pretty exciting. Here's Aiden.
So love for the little guys. We're actually going to Indiecade tomorrow for most of the evening. So look out for that. We'll probably have a lot of information on the little indies over there. And it's actually really, really funny too, because about 2 weeks ago, I was in Atlanta. I went to MomoCon. Mm-hmm. And so I just walked past it. I saw somebody that I thought was really familiar. So I stopped and was like, "You look really familiar. I know you from somewhere. Who are you?" She's like, "Oh, I'm Danny. I made Metronomicon." I was like, "Oh, professionalism broke," and I just totally went giddy on him. And I was like, "No way, you're here?" And he's like, "Yeah, I'm here." And I'm over at the Indiecade. I was like, "Oh, that's so awesome." And so it's just a literal fangirl moment. Poopa Games is just adorable. Danny is adorable. He's probably bubblier than I am, which is hard to be. But
it's true.
Yeah, they can all attest to that. It's so fulfilling to see indie developers who do go to these conventions all the time to be able to come to really big ones like this, especially trade shows, because that's what E3 is. It's not a convention. And just that moment of, "Oh my God, you're here too. I'm so happy for you. I'm so proud of you." Collectively between the two of us, it was great.
And I think that gets lost in the mix too. Like folks who only ever watch or read about E3 never really like, oh, I forgot that like, yes, there is a sizable indie presence here too. And that is important. We didn't have this a little over like 10 years ago or so. Indies just did not command as much space, and it really was all the big tentpoles. So yeah, make sure you continue to support them, continue to support sites who support them.
Yeah, and yes, I'm trying to think. I know I had some other appointments today that were pretty cool.
I had one more.
You did? Okay. Marcus has one more.
Actually, yeah, this is my last one of the day, and it was a good one to end. It was with THQ Nordic, and it was a game called Wreckfest, and it was made by a few of the devs that worked on the Flat Out series, if anyone remembers those. Like crazy racing with a big emphasis on crashing and stunts and stuff
Dirt
like that.
Rally.
And that's pretty much the entire pitch for Wreckfest is let's just crash cars over and over with some really nice physics and show that off. And it was a lot of fun. Like there's it's still traditional racing where you're trying to win a race, but they also want you to immediately ram people and you get rewarded for it with points. And that's the first thing I did when I picked up the controller. And they're like, all right, go race. And then I sideswiped the first guy I saw and ran him to a wall, and they just started cracking up. And then I just hunted down everyone in front of me because I'm a vindictive driver. But it's cool. There's a lot of cool modes. There's like death match where it's just, demolition derby. Everyone's in there. I think up to 23 players online just with a destructible car. But there's actually some strategy to it where like different pieces of your car can break off, and you can equip new pieces as like armor. So like if you lose like your front, then your front is weak, so you kind of have to like, okay, I need to be careful, maybe guard my front and try and make sure nobody knows. But if people can see what pieces you got off, so they'll start targeting maybe that part of your car until you die. I was like, okay, there's some cool thought to that. One track, or not even a track, it was just a big arena, had a giant like half pipe where you could just drive up it and go decide to build momentum and just come back down and just ram the crap out of somebody. Mm-hmm. And there was like 20 cars in there, so it was just this glorious mess of just twisted metal everywhere. It was really glorious, and it was a fantastic way to end a very long day. I was a little sleepy by that point, and that woke me up immediately. So I think it's something, if you're into like those flat out games or like Crash Mode and Burnout, that's one to definitely keep your eye on.
And Naomi, I know you had like a big appointment at the end of the day with Team17. Yeah. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah. That's when I saw a little bit more of Escapist too, which is pretty cool. They updated the art style on it, which was, originally pretty adorable, and now it's just even more adorable. But they are going to be but they're adding a multiplayer aspect of it, which was pretty cool. And then I played a spaceship sim, and I'm gonna have to look up the name on it so I don't butcher that. But basically, you're out in space and you're building a ship and doing everything that goes along with that. But the cool part about that is that you choose a sponsor before you start up, and that dictates the rest of the game. And then I also played a platformer, which I'm going to have to look up the name on as well. Really adorable, hand-painted art style. But it focused on a pinball mechanic, which was pretty interesting. I don't know why someone hasn't jumped on that before.
Oh, was it Yoku's Island?
Yes, Yoku's Island. Played that for a bit. That was really cool. It was interesting talking to the dev there because I guess he used to work on AAA titles, and he had the story of, wanted to do his own thing, and he's doing it, which is pretty cool. So he had Yoku's Island there, and then Genesis Alpha 1 was the space game. And I guess before I forget, I just want to... It's something that we've all been talking about, but we were talking about how E3 this year has opened up to fans, but it hasn't really catered to them at all. And it seems like it's not really fair to them either. Like, they go to a huge event, spend a lot of money, a lot of them are traveling in, and they're only able to play a few games a day because these lines are just insane. and got to stand in line for a couple of games and talk to a couple of people, and it's pretty much been the same thing from them. I only got to play 2 other games before this, and it was like 3 o'clock at the time, and the show closes at 6, so that's not a lot of time in between. Like something like Far Cry 4 had like a 4-hour wait. Mario was at least an hour. I went in to try to see Skyrim VR, and they had already cut off the line because it's going to take 3 hours. And, it was 3 o'clock, so they were, cutting it off for the day. So I know there was not a lot of fan support, I don't think.
I think and I'm certain there will be, countless hot takes on that as an issue going forward. The main problem seems to stem from the idea that fan E3 has definitely happened in reaction to a loss of profits, a loss of major marketing material, because PlayStation and other companies are holding their own separate events, and this was made in reaction to those things, as opposed to a proactive planning like a PAX or even certain regional conventions where they say we want to actively, with the fans in mind, design an event for these fans. And we can accommodate the media, but we have the infrastructure for just a lot of people who don't know what they're doing, and that usually takes care of everybody else. So bless them if they try to keep this going. I really hope that they have a lot of tough meetings about it going forward, because while I can cuss and moan about, I'm a journalist and it's tough to get to my meetings and blah, 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 at the end of the day, I think it just sucks for the people who really love video games and want to feel the experience of E3 and then kind of realize, oh, the curtain is being pulled back, and it's a little rougher than maybe the nostalgia or the mystique has illustrated for folks.
Yeah, and I think, Naomi, you brought up a really good point in that it's not fair to the fans, and it's something that we've been mentioning to each other. It's just it makes it slightly harder for us to do our jobs, which is, at the end of the day, probably not the most important thing if you also have these fans, and these fans paid $200, $300 a pop to get in there. I think
nothing of travel costs.
Yeah, to say nothing of travel or hotel.
Yeah.
And I think we saw some people scalping tickets outside at one point for $500.
Something like that.
Yeah, something like that. And they go in and they were only able to get their hands on 2 or 3 games, maybe 4.
Maybe.
Yeah.
If they go for the big stuff.
4 is kind of,
if they go for the big stuff.
4 is probably the max.
Yeah.
But obviously so much of the tiny stuff is wrapped up in meeting rooms.
Right.
That obviously if you don't have appointment,
Yeah.
Or you just wouldn't think would be there.
You wouldn't
You think everything's on that main floor.
Yeah.
The other thing with that too is that there's 3 halls. There's the South, the West, and a concourse hall. And the concourse hall is basically just a bunch of meeting rooms. I mean, and it's open to the public too, but the problem with that is that all of these meeting rooms are by appointment. And so you have to already have an appointment made with them before the show.
You had security people just letting in consumer badges.
Yeah, and that's the problem too. That area really was not focused on fans whatsoever. It was not accommodating for them. I mean, these appointments, you think they're really super cool and fun, and in reality, it's cool and it's fun.
You sit in a chair and you let a developer talk to you for 20 minutes. That's not as exciting as it sounds.
Yeah, you let a developer gush to you about their game, and that's awesome, and that's an amazing experience as a journalist.
Sometimes it's cool, sometimes it sucks.
Yes, sometimes it's cool and sometimes it sucks. But as a journalist, that's a cool experience. As a fan, that's maybe not so cool.
Yeah.
Since we're all doing hot takes.
Yeah, hot takes.
I think ultimately, the feeling I get with this year's E3 is the ESA is kind of trying to have its cake and eat it too, where it's okay, we're trying to figure out what this show is going to be going forward, but we're trying to we don't want to go all the way PAX fan modes, or we're going to open it up to fans, but it's still a trade show, so you guys can still come, press, journalists, whoever, but we're also going to have 15,000 people that are going to be in your way, so it's that instead of kind of accommodating both people kind of suffer, though to go back to the fans kind of being the ones that suffering, on Twitter, stuff like that, a lot of journalists are complaining about the fans, and understandably, like, I'm one of them. But at the same time, we actually have a little bit better because we get to play more games than they ever will just by proxy of appointments. So, like, we might not get to play as much floor stuff. Like, we're going to play more than they will because we have it scheduled. They're on their own.
Yeah.
So.
Well,
one small comment, if I may. Like, just paying attention to Twitter today, I did see quite a few, like, high-level journalists say that, like, they were legitimately turned away from appointments, which makes me scream in terror.
The thing is, it wouldn't bother me so much if there was infrastructure, enough to accommodate the fans, but there's not. And so part of the problem is you get these lines that are 3 or 4 hours long, and those people aren't going to see the things that they want to see. Like, a lot of people are coming here to see all the big games, and they're only going to see, like, at max, if they go to all 3 days, like 9, maybe 12. And that's if they spend all day standing in line. And like there's been a lot of congestion at E3. Like, I've been going for a few years, and like that's always a little bit of a problem, at least. But for all of the pomp and circumstance around E3, there's not enough stations to accommodate all the people who are here. And like that's just on a base level for the fans that are coming in. And like Marcus said, we have appointments in closed rooms, so it's not as big of a deal for us as it is to someone who paid $200 just because they love games and is now having to basically stand in line for 3 days. Like that's not fun. That's not cool.
It's not good.
But
it's not Meat 3.
Thank you, Damon Nizer. Love what you all do. Keep up the good work.
Thanks, Damon.
Thanks, Damon.
Little kiss to you.
And with that, we're just gonna close this out. If you want to know more about Extra Life, or if you haven't registered yet and already know about Extra Life, head over to extra-life.org, where you can register. You can choose a Children's Miracle Network hospital that you want to support for Extra Life, and then 100% of all the money you raise from friends, family, and strangers goes directly to that children's hospital to treat sick and injured kids. It's pretty awesome. And then you also have a great excuse to play games, and like, who doesn't want a great excuse to play games? So
For the kids.
FTK. Actually, technically, we're not supposed to say FTK anymore because
anymore? Was that a thing?
Yeah, FTK was a thing. I guess Duke University didn't like that we were using it because they have a trademark on it or something. But anyway, yes.
And it's Duke University.
With that, head on over to community.extra-life.org if you want to see the articles these fine folk are putting up, and
plenty after E3 too.
Also, just engage
after E3.
Just engage in the Extra Life community.
Numerically, maybe more.
Probably.
Thank you, Kensta, Kensta. Who's saying for the kids. Have a good evening, guys. Thank you very much. We appreciate it. We are probably going to pass out right after this because we are very tired. And with that, I think that's your E3 day 5, day 2 wrap up.
As long as we don't hit 2 hands.
All right, we're gonna shut it off. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Love you.
Good night, Jim Boy. Good night, John Boy.
Continue waving off.